Prisoner in My Homeland is the sixth game from Mission US, the award-winning series developed to engage young people in transformational moments in American history. Mission US aims to get young people to care about history by seeing it through the eyes of peers from the past. In Prisoner in My Homeland, players step into the role of Henry Tanaka, a fictional Japanese-American teenager whose family is forced to leave their home for a military prison camp in Manzanar, California. Players grapple with challenges faced by more than 120,000 Japanese Americans unjustly incarcerated during World War II. As the game begins, a young woman named Maya discovers her grandfather Henry's diary. As she reads the diary, the player is transported back in time to the year 1941, when Henry's story begins. Henry recounts how his parents immigrated from Japan and established a family farm in Bainbridge Island, Washington. We learn that the farm was put in Henry's name because discriminatory laws had not allowed his parents to own land.
Dad jokes that I'm the youngest landowner in Tanaka history.
In this idyllic pre-war scene, the player's choices include whether to try out for baseball, study for a chemistry test, or attend his dad's judo class. But life quickly changes after Japan attacks Pearl Harbor. The U.S. declares war, and President Roosevelt issues Executive Order 9066. Henry's father is questioned and arrested by the FBI. Soon, Henry, his mother, and his sister are forced to leave their farm and their dog behind. Under military guard, they travel to a prison camp in Manzanar, a remote desert wilderness. The player, as Henry, must help his family adapt to life at the camp in creative ways.
We hammered the few can lids I had gotten from Tadashi into the wood. It didn't cover all the holes, but it was a good start.
He can also help his family by taking a job in the camp and eventually attend school to improve his prospects for college. While completing tasks around Manzanar, the player interacts with other Japanese-American characters with a range of viewpoints and backgrounds. Tadashi, another teenager, is a terminal islander who works in the mess hall.
No offense, but I don't trust anybody.
Meiko is his studious neighbor and potential romantic interest.
Why should we have to write about American democracy locked up in here?
Mr. Yamamoto is an active member of the Japanese American Citizens League.
It is up to us to convince the government that we aren't the enemy.
Historical figure Harry Ueno is a community activist.
We can pitch in and make it better.
Players also interact with primary source materials from the time, including documents, photos, radio excerpts, and period music, and learn key vocabulary by collecting smart words. As they make choices throughout the game, they earn badges that help determine the outcome of Henry's story. As the game continues, the player and Henry learn about rising tensions within the camp that erupt in protest and violence. In Part 3 of the game, Henry learns that all of the Japanese-American prisoners must complete a loyalty questionnaire. He must grapple with different perspectives on how to answer two questions in particular. One, about his willingness to serve in the U.S. Armed Forces, and the other, swearing unqualified allegiance to the United States and renouncing allegiance to the Japanese Emperor.
If we answer the way they want, the government will try to get us to join the military. And if we don't...
This decision will impact the player's potential paths, which might include enlisting in the U.S. Army, being deemed disloyal and separated from his family, attending college in the East, or returning to Bainbridge Island to help his parents resettle. In the epilogue, the player learns about Henry's experiences after incarceration and the history of the decades that followed, including the redress movement and the government's official apology with the Civil Liberties Act of 1988. Prisoner in My Homeland was developed in collaboration with members of the Japanese American community, including advisors from Densho and the Bainbridge Island Japanese American community, who provided critical input.
An accurate historical perspective.
The team also worked with Yuri Education Project to create a comprehensive educator's guide, including background information, activities, prime resources, standards alignments, and additional media resources. The goal is to promote discussion about the broader social, political, and economic context of events and perspectives in the game, and help young people make connections to larger historical themes that remain relevant today. To learn more about Prisoner in My Homeland and the Mission US game series, visit missionus.org.